Today on ArtScene, we'll take a private tour of the brand new, reopened Kirkland Museum of Fine and Decorative Art. An explosion of color through dots. 150 years of Colorado paintings and some international home decor like you've never seen before. I'm LeFebre here at Kirkland Museum of Fine and Decorative Art. The original museum was placed on a big truck and moved through town. And now a new museum's been built with even more space. You ready to take a private tour just for us? Let's go.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Great.
Good, good. Mine, nice to meet you.
Welcome to Kirkland Museum of Fine and Decorative Art.
Thank you. So what are we going to be doing today?
Well, I'm going to show you around Kirkland Museum, which has 3 principal collections.
Okay.
So we have an international decorative art and design collection, and then the work of Vance Kirkland, Colorado painter, and other Colorado artists and artists from the region. So we'll see all 3 collections today.
That sounds amazing.
The museum itself is 15 years old, but we just relocated and opened this beautiful new building at 12th and Bannock in March of 2018. So we're just getting started.
Cool. I'm ready to see it.
All right,
Yeah,
come on this way. We'll start here.
All right.
Bobby, come this way. We'll
All
start
right.
in this gallery, which we call the Vance Kirkland Gallery.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Mm-hmm. All of the paintings in this room are by Vance Kirkland,
Okay.
who's the museum's namesake. He was a Colorado artist who moved here to the state to found the DU School of Art in 1929. And this gallery is part of the features of our new building on Bannock Street. The Jim Olson, who designed the building, was able to give us space to bookend the building with Vance Kirkland. So we have his gallery on this end, and then at the far end of the museum, you'll also see his historic studio building.
Oh, okay.
So Vance Kirkland was an artist with a very diverse career. He painted in 5 distinct painting periods, and you can see all of them in this gallery, which I love. So here we have Kirkland's first painting that's on view, the 1926 Old Barn. And here he's showing a realistic scene in watercolor that he would have seen in Ohio, where he was from before he moved to Colorado. He started, though, adding interesting colors that you wouldn't find in nature, like an orange waterfall, for instance, which wasn't very popular with his teachers at the Cleveland School of Art, but he was an innovator. And you can see that through his 5 periods. When he moved to Colorado, he continued painting realism and then gradually evolved into surrealism and then abstraction. And then he eventually landed on these dots, which are what he's best known for. And then on this same wall, we have his very last finished painting before his death in 1981, where you can see his signature dot painting style and a new series that he was just starting at the time of his death, the Forces series.
Wow.
So you can see his progression on this single wall from his early watercolors to his very late abstraction.
Is there much information about what he was thinking and how he transitioned into these different, time periods and styles?
Yes, we're lucky to have quite a bit of information about Vance Kirkland, quotes from his lifetime, and he also knew our director, Hugh Grant, not the actor, who came to inherit most of his estate and created this museum. So because of that, we know his own recollections of Vance Kirkland and know that Kirkland was someone who was a constant innovator. He wanted everything he did to be better than anything he'd ever done before.
Yeah.
And because of that, he didn't settle into sort of a signature style as many artists do, but wanted to continue to push himself to create new things until he died at the age of 76.
That's amazing.
Yes.
It's a really, really cool room. I'm excited to see more. Where are we headed next?
Wonderful. Follow me to the Promenade Gallery.
Let's go.
So here we are in the Promenade Gallery.
Okay.
This space is one of the signatures of the architect, Jim Olson of Olson Kundig in Seattle, designed our new building. And this is one of his signatures, this long promenade gallery with colonnades that gives a little peek at the end. So here you can see just a little bit of the wall of Vance Kirkland's studio building and this beautiful Kirkland painting drawing you through the museum.
You got to earn it.
Exactly, yeah. And then another wonderful thing about the architecture is it allows us to show the collection roughly chronologically, which we could never do before.
Okay.
So now I'm going to take you through, we're going to time travel through the collection. So out here you have little vignettes and they give you a little taste of what's in the gallery beyond.
Okay.
So this is some of the oldest stuff in the collection, and we're going to start in there, the Arts and Crafts Gallery, with the earliest Colorado art and the earliest decorative art.
All right, appetizers, dinner.
Exactly,
All right.
exactly. Have we whet your appetite?
Yes.
So here we are in the Arts and Crafts Gallery.
Okay.
This has the earliest Colorado and regional paintings and sculpture in the collection, and then they're shown in salon style, we call it, with the decorative art and design, the earliest in the collection.
Okay.
And we start with the arts and crafts movement, which was started in England in the 1860s. So we actually have two pieces by the founder of the arts and crafts movement in England, William Morris, a beautiful rug and this wall hanging behind you, which shows peacocks and dragons.
Wow, okay.
And then that style, which is kind of you can see in this room, lots of wood, simple right angles, that traveled to the United States. And then Frank Lloyd Wright also had an arts and crafts period, and so he's probably one of the more famous names in our collection.
That's really cool. And tell us a little bit more about salon style. What exactly does that mean for folks that may not be familiar?
So it can have a couple different meanings, but probably the best way to describe it would be that they're shown together. So decorative art are pieces that were meant to be used, that you would have in your house, furniture, tableware, vases, things like that. And we show them the way you would in your home with art on the walls around them, more the way you would in like a living room setting, for example.
Great.
So next I'd like to take you to our next gallery, which has Art Nouveau and Impressionist works.
I'm ready.
So now we're in the next gallery, which has Art Nouveau furniture. Here we have one of our star new acquisitions, which is a beautiful bed frame by Louis Majorelle around 1900 in France. And the French really knew how to do Art Nouveau. And I think you can see a visual difference, even if you've never heard of it, from that arts and crafts furniture. This has no right angles.
Right.
It's really inspired by the human body, by natural forms. Everything's kind of like vine-like and sinuous.
Yeah, totally fluid.
Lots of fluid.
Bends and curves and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful, one-of-a-kind bed that you can only see in Denver, Colorado, with lots of inlay. So it has orchids inlaid into it all over the bed frame.
And what are that iridescent sort of, what is that? Is that shell? Like, what is that?
Yes, it's like a mother of pearl shell.
Okay.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is beautiful.
So above this beautiful Art Nouveau furniture, we have paintings by Colorado and regional artists in the Impressionist style, which is the next in the chronological progression.
That's great. What's next?
Let's go this way into our De Stijl and Bauhaus Gallery.
All right.
So now we are in our Bauhaus Gallery, and the paintings on the wall in this room are by regionalist artists. So one of the best known names and best regionalists is Yves Drouleau. She was a Boulder-based artist. So her husband worked at the university, and she helped to found the Boulder Artists Guild, was very active in arts organizations, and used her world travels to inspire her paintings.
Wow.
So this painting here is Runaway Rails, so it has that train theme of the West. And it's wonderful to show how many women artists we have in our collection. We have almost a third of the Colorado and regional collection is women artists.
Oh, that's great.
And we're super excited to be able to promote their work in addition to all of the art history of Colorado and the surrounding states.
Yeah, cool, cool. What is this? This looks really interesting here.
Yeah, so this wall of furniture is by people associated with the Bauhaus, who that was a German design school eventually shut down by the Nazis, and they're known for their use of tubular aluminum. And for example, this desk here, they explored all the uses of that material. So here is a desk set, and this wonderful typewriter you asked about is unlike any typewriter I've ever seen.
Right, I'm wondering what the heck it is. It looks really cool, but I have no idea how it works.
Exactly, so instead of putting your fingers on keys, you position this little pointer above the letter that you'd like to type, and then you hit a button, and it types that letter. And then you have to reposition the pointer. So I can imagine it might take quite a while to get your letter out.
Absolutely. Wow, that's cool.
Isn't that neat?
It is neat.
This is from 1923. So you're seeing the evolution of design as different types of work took over the workplace.
Okay. Now what? What's next?
Well, let's go this way, and I'll show you some surrealism.
Okay. We'll have a lot more of this amazing museum later in the show. Stick around.
now we're in our Art Deco and Surrealism gallery.
Okay.
The Art Deco period is a really fun one because in spite of Prohibition, there was all this new technology, cars were becoming popular, and so there's lots of drinking paraphernalia, smoking paraphernalia, lots of fun things happening in this design movement. And the name came from French, and so we have behind us two of the big names in French Art Deco. Dunant did the screen. He was taught the Japanese lacquer technique by a Japanese man in Paris. And so he's known for these Dunant fish that you can see in the screen behind us.
Yeah.
And then this table that we're standing next to is by Ruhlmann, and it is made of this beautiful macassar ebony, and the top actually flips over. It's for gaming. So you could have a felt top to your table or a wood top, and then each of the four positions has this drawer that has some storage in it and also an ashtray for all of your gaming needs.
That's right.
So you can imagine it was a high life.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And then along with the deco furniture and tableware in this gallery, we have surrealist paintings by Colorado and regional artists. And the one behind you, I'd like to point out The Visitor by Phyllis Hutchinson Montrose. We had a retrospective exhibition of her work at the former location of the museum, and she was a character. Unfortunately, she recently passed away, but our director, Hugh Grant, was interviewing her for the exhibition, and he said, "Why do you think there's so many great surrealists in our state?" And she said, "Oh, Hugh, it's the thin air, the lack of oxygen, we're all loopy." So we like to attribute the high altitude in Colorado to this stellar selection of surrealist artists here.
Yeah.
So you can see they're tapping into that idea of the unconscious and Freud and really playing with whimsy in the paintings surrounding us.
Where are you taking me next?
Well, we're gonna go into the Modern Gallery.
Okay.
Follow me. So we have a collection of over 30,000 pieces, and probably about 5,000 or 6,000 are on view in this building. And one of the things I like about them is the diversity. So we have the big things we've seen, and then also these very small pieces that you would use in your home. And we have some that are one-of-a-kind pieces, and some that you might own or your grandmother might have. Very common, but they're still good design.
Sure.
And then, this is kind of fun. I wanted to show you these pieces because these are very famous artists. Pablo Picasso, Salvador Dali, and Alexander Calder, known for their paintings and sculpture. But here we have examples of their decorative art.
Wow.
So here is a picture that's shaped like an owl, designed by Pablo Picasso. This is a compact, so it opens to have makeup and a mirror, and the head actually pulls out from the bird shape to become a lipstick.
Wow.
That's designed by Salvador Dali. And then we have these little beautiful demi-tasse teacups by Alexander Calder, who's known for his big mobile sculptures.
That's really, really
So
cool.
it's fun to see the other work that they're not as famous for. So come over to this vignette here. So this is the Modern Gallery. And one of the great things about modernism is that people were really throwing off the shackles of what we thought of as the right way to do things. So, you know, chairs have to have 4 legs. Well, why? They could have a pedestal or 3 legs. So in this gallery, we compare and contrast 3 different nationalities or areas of the world in their modernism. So we're now in the Scandinavian modern vignette.
Okay.
And I want to point out this settee and chair behind you. They're designed by Folk Jansson, who is a Swedish designer. And if Mr. Grant was giving this tour, he would talk about how you could just picture Morticia from the Addams Family sitting in them, kind of spider webby pattern on there. And we're very lucky to have them in their original upholstery. It's really common for people to recover their furniture to match their surroundings. So these are from the original upholstery from the Swedish designer. And they have these 3 legs, so it's not a symmetrical chair, which is kind of innovative.
Those artists, I tell you, they have some great ideas.
Right? We like to show off all the creativity in our museum.
Yes.
Let's go to the Postmodern Gallery.
All right.
Oh, wait, I want to show you this wonderful Italian vignette in the
Yes.
Modern Gallery. This is a wonderful lip sofa that was inspired by a Salvador Dali painting of Mae West's lips. Although also sometimes Marilyn Monroe is thrown in the mix there. So, I mean, how often do you get to sit on a settee that is lips?
That's really cool.
And then this is the best part, we have a telephone that matches it. So, you know, part of the same vignette, you have the lip-shaped telephone.
I like it.
Isn't that fun?
It's really cool.
So you can contrast this Italian design from the modern period with the Scandinavian design that we were just looking at.
Very neat.
Yeah, well, let's go see Postmodern.
Sure. What we got?
Here we are in the last gallery of our chronology. This has postmodern furniture and a little bit of modern too. And then the paintings on the wall are pure abstractions, so they no longer have any reference to anything discernible. And so they're the most recent, in most cases, in our collection. And the one I want to talk about today is this untitled painting by Al Wynn. Al Wynn was a very prolific Colorado artist who did some really interesting pieces, but a tragedy occurred. He and his wife, who's also an artist, lived in the Black Forest between Denver and Colorado Springs, and there was a big fire there a few years ago, and luckily all of the people and animals made it out, but most of their life's work was in the studio and burned up in the fire.
Oh no.
So we're especially lucky to have a collection of Al Wynn paintings and Lewin ceramics, because many pieces were lost in that fire, tragically.
Really unfortunate. You mentioned some furniture. This particular chair here is really interesting to me.
Yeah, isn't that fun? Do you think it would be comfortable?
I've been thinking about it. I think maybe for a short period of time.
Yeah, unfortunately I can't let you try it, but I think that that's one of the fun things about postmodern design. They're really pushing the limits of what a chair is, right?
Yeah.
It almost looks more like a spider.
It's really cool.
But probably it would hit your back in a good way to just support you. It might be surprising.
I'm just gonna imagine what it would feel like to sit in it.
Exactly.
It's really neat though. I just, with the kind of negative space in the back area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. I think the imagination present in this era is so fun.
That's right.
Great. Well, why don't you come down here with me and we'll check out the rest of the museum.
Sure.
So now we're at an Art Deco vignette, and this is an amazing nocturne radio by Walter Dorwin Teague. We think there are only about 10 in the world, and that's partly because they were so expensive at the time they were made in 1935.
Wow.
It cost about the same amount as a new Ford car. So these were marketed to hotel lobbies, very high end. And it's really rare to have one in such good condition. So it's such a fun element.
It's beautiful. It's like really, it's different kind of, I've never seen anything like this.
Me neither. Isn't that great?
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Is it still functional?
I think it works. I'm not sure, but
Can we try it?
I don't think
No,
so.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Bummer.
But doesn't it conjure just feelings of grandeur from the 30s?
Totally. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, great.
Wow. Beautiful piece.
Well, come down here. I'm going to show you some sculptures.
Okay.
So I love this spot in our new building because you get this view of the inside and the outside. So behind us is a view of the exterior of the building, which is a Jim Olsen signature. He created a really unique pattern of ceramic tile. So it's terracotta bars and then interspersed with glass that reflects the Colorado sunshine.
It's really beautiful, and it's, it's like a signature piece. It doesn't look like anything else.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's one of his dreams that the building be considered kind of a piece in our collection.
Wow.
And we're part of the Golden Triangle Creative District, so how neat that we're now the Golden Museum in the Golden Triangle.
Great, great.
So this now here, where we have this relationship between the exterior and the interior, is part of our sculpture gallery. So we have a little outdoor sculpture area and an inside one, and that's partly because sculptures are usually less light sensitive, so we can take advantage of the beautiful Colorado light again.
Sure.
And here we have two figures next to us in bronze that were designed by Edgar Britton.
Cool.
And another great thing about these two next to us is that they were a welcome gift from the Denver Art Museum. They gave us a number of works as a welcome to the neighborhood.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Very
really
cool.
nice.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a larger sculpture area here that we'll go past and then on to the studio building.
I'll follow you.
Yeah, great.
We'll get back to even more of the amazing Kirkland Museum in just a moment. And now, let's get back to our tour of Kirkland Museum of Fine and Decorative Art.
I'm going to take you into Vance Kirkland's historic studio and art school building.
Sounds like a plan.
Follow me in here. So here we are in the historic studio building. We're in the front room, which we call the watercolor room because it shows off some of Vance Kirkland's watercolor paintings again.
Okay.
But I want to tell you a little bit about this awesome building. So it was built in 1910 and 11 at 13th and Pearl for Henry Reed, who was another artist. He's in our collection. He built it to be his student school of art. So no one ever lived in this building in its history. It was his School of Art, and then Vance Kirkland opened the Kirkland School of Art in this building in 1932.
Wow.
And kept it as his personal painting space for the rest of his life. And so we felt it was really the heart of the Kirkland Museum experience. So when we decided to relocate the museum, we actually physically moved this entire 3-room brick building, over 100 years old. So with the help of mammoth moving and rigging and Shaw Construction, we actually excavated underneath it. They put it on these awesome articulated wheels and rolled it a mile down the street to attach it to this new building in Panic Street.
Simple task.
Just, oh yeah, so easy. You should do it all the time.
Wow.
So we're thrilled to be able to share it with visitors again,
That's
the way
amazing.
we did in the former location.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about having it here on Bannock is that we're now able to show more of the pieces that Vance Kirkland actually owned during his lifetime. As I told you, Hugh Grant collected most of the objects in the collection.
Wow.
But Kirkland left a few of them with his estate, including this set behind us, which is his living room set from his home, which was not in this building, but we're showing some of his favorite furniture, including the chair behind you, which is his favorite armchair he liked to sit in at his house.
That's amazing. That's a really unique story of cultural preservation.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's an important part of Colorado and Denver's history as well.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So I want to show you more of the studio building.
All right.
Are you ready to come?
Let's go. Whoa. Very cool. Looks like an artist studio.
I think this is the highlight of the tour. This is Vance Kirkland's actual studio space. The way he used it during his lifetime. We have his own paint-covered table and all of his tools.
Oh yeah.
And you probably noticed these awesome straps.
Absolutely.
So when Vance Kirkland was doing his last 2 painting periods, the oil paint and water combinations, and then the dot paintings, he would occasionally suspend himself face down in those straps over the table so that he could be right over the part of the painting that he was working on.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
And kind of dangerous if
Maybe
you're
a
the
little
wrong person.
Absolutely.
I'm clumsy, I don't know.
Well, he had assistants that helped.
That's really cool.
So he invented this really neat, unique oil paint mixed with water combination. We know oil and water don't mix, but in order to do that kind of painting, he had to paint flat. So that's why he started painting with the canvases flat on the table so that he could manipulate that very liquid substance.
Wow.
And then that was his 4th period, the abstract expressionist works. For his last period, the dots, he would wait until that layer of oil and water had dried, leaving these kind of bubbly surfaces, and then very meticulously make dots using dowels and paintbrushes, placing them exactly where he wanted on the canvas.
I see this little skateboard here.
Yes.
What is that?
So when he was suspending himself over his paintings, he wanted to be right over the part he was working on. So he came up with this ingenious idea where he could tie the stretcher of the painting to skateboards. So there'd be one under each corner and he could roll it across the table to be right over the part he was working on. So if you can imagine, you know, before there was really fancy commercial skateboards, people made them homemade and it could help the painting be where he wanted on the table.
What a simple, you know, fix to a
But pretty clever.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing.
So in the Vance Kirkland Gallery, I showed you Kirkland's last finished painting. In the studio, we have his last unfinished painting.
Okay.
So when he passed away in 1981, he was working on this painting on the easel back here. And one of the great things, I think, is we have this photo series taken by Hugh Grant of Kirkland just a month before he died. So you can see here, Vance Kirkland sitting alongside the work table here with his row of baby food jars of paint. And he's making dots on the edge of the painting with those baby food jars. But in the photograph, you can see the picture behind him on the easel because he worked on more than one piece at once. And that's his last unfinished work, which is on the easel in the studio on view.
Oh, wow.
So when he passed away, he was in the hospital for a while before his death and was working on that painting. So you can see in the photograph, it doesn't have any dots on it yet. But here on view, you can see how he got started, but wasn't able to complete it.
Wow, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a little taste of what was going on in his mind at the end of his life.
Sure, sure. You wonder what it would look like had he been able to finish.
Absolutely. We'll never know.
That's right. You know, I've looked at a ton of these today, the dot paintings, and I'm impressed at how symmetrical and perfect the placement of each one of those
Isn't it amazing?
It really is.
It really is. He was a very meticulous artist, and he used it to create his own cosmos. So there were things like the illusion of floating mysteries in red space, explosions on a sun 80 billion years BC, and all different kinds of creation myths.
Yeah, that's great.
From his own imagination.
It's like pretty intense. Like when you think about it, it's not like simple stuff. It gets the mind thinking, and this sort of, in my mind, it conjures this like vastness when I think of those titles. That's really, really cool.
Maybe he was a philosopher.
Maybe.
I wouldn't want to tell you one other thing about him. Kirkland was synesthetic. So it's the combining of two senses, and it means other things for other people, but for him, it meant that when he heard music, he saw colors that went with it. So he was an avid music lover. You can see some of his records on view in the studio. And so he would listen to classical music with a lot of dissonance, and then write down color combinations, giving him those kind of fighting colors. You know, we talked about the waterfall that was orange. Well, maybe that's because he was synesthetic, and he saw these contrasting colors that went together in his mind.
What an interesting kind of juxtaposition of senses, and the way that that manifests into art is really, really cool.
Yeah. So I'm so glad you could come out and see all of this wonderful stuff.
I enjoyed it. So thank you so much for showing us the whole museum, walking us through the space. I really enjoyed the tour. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for coming today.
We had a great time at Kirkland Museum of Fine and Decorative Art. Thanks to them for having us. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time as we discover more of Denver's art scene.